Interesting.
So I felt like this was such a sweet movie. I just, cried multiple times. I really reacted to it. So, and in ways, actually, I related to it because my mother is blind, and so I caretake for her. It's a different. It's a different story, but I related to this character a lot. For you, how was it, because you wrote it and directed it, how was it really personal to you taking on this?
I think, obviously I was an outsider coming into this community, so it was not my story. And I felt a lot of responsibility telling the story, because whenever you're telling a story that isn't your own lived experience, and especially when you're representing a community that is not your own and very specific, I felt like it was important to surround myself with the people who could support that story and, help me to tell it. But there were ways in which the story was very personal to me. I came from a family, I had immigrant parents. I felt like there was a kind of cultural divide a little bit with my parents, where I was an American kid and they didn't fully understand that in a way. And I also was a teenage girl, and came from a very tight knit family where I felt like my identity was very wrapped up in my parents and who they were. And leaving home was hard, and kind of discovering who I was and what my identity was outside of the cocoon of my family. So there were definitely parts of the story, my parents are embarrassing and things that felt very familiar. And yet there were things that I needed to learn about and educate myself about, and really surround myself with, people that were in the deaf community, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, so that I made sure I had collaborators and a team that could help me to tell this story in a way that felt authentic and real.
I love that, you put them, had that great community with that. And I feel like, I'm sure the whole vibe on set and everything was a positive high for everybody. Just, being able to experience this, because many of them have been through the industry their whole lives. So how was that kind of experience with everybody?
Well, I think ASL is a really good set language. I would encourage every set to use ASL. I think that, focused on communication on set and making sure that everybody was connected and on the same page. And it was a very useful thing just in general for a project, and making sure that, we were all on board with making the same thing. And, it was a wonderful community that we built on set. I felt like we really became a family with the cast and crew, and came out of the project. I think people felt very artistically fulfilled, but also fulfilled as human beings, because we were pushing everybody, into thinking about how we as human beings relate, and how we can find other ways to relate than what we're used to. So when a camera operator is working with a deaf actor and they're finding their own language of how to communicate with the camera and positioning and all of that, it's everybody's kind of working as this unit and cohesively. And it was really a wonderful thing.
I loved the father-daughter relationship. I thought that was really beautiful. I like you said, though, I liked the whole family being so close knit. But can you talk about kind of the distinct relationship of the father-daughter relationship?
Yeah, I think it was, it was kind of the key relationship of the movie to me. Ruby is a girl who goes fishing with her father, and she loves being out on the boat, and they share that love and passion. And, that she's grown up. I think for my actors as well, there were some parallels with these characters. Troy has a CODA daughter who was about the same age as Amelia, and he was away from his daughter while we were filming, and Amelia was away from her dad while we were filming, and she was only 17. And so I think there was a real life connection formed there that was really beautiful, and off screen as well as on screen, that I think you can feel in the movie. Those two actors were very connected and love each other a lot, as did all of us, but that connection was really special.
So this movie was very sweet. I thought it was
extremely sweet, and it led me to cry several times. How personal was it to you reading the script?
Well, when I looked it over, I thought to myself, finally, they're looking for an authentic deaf character. Finally, there are deaf jokes that we can tell, which hearing people need to see. It was a wonderful opportunity to unveil that. And then finally, our culture and the CODA culture that hearing people just don't know about it. All these things I felt needed to be communicated. I knew it was going to be good. And I'm amazed at the product. People love it. It's emotional. People cry. And I'm very proud to be a part of it.
For me, I loved the storyline partly because I am my mother's caretaker who is blind, which is totally different. But I just felt the story communicated trying things and trying new things no matter what your circumstance. Can you talk more about that theme?
Frank in the deaf community always encounters difficult situations and finds a way to navigate and overcome challenges. And CODA is a primary example of not being able to communicate, needing to problem solve, having a different language that can cause conflicts. And it's a good example. At the doctor, we need communication. For our fishing business, we need communication. And having that access. And today, sometimes you go to the food store and I'm looking for something, like some kind of canned food or something, and trying to interact with somebody. I have to be at the ready and learn how to navigate and overcome these challenges. But the real question is how hearing people approach us. Are they fearful? Are they excited? It's an individual dynamic.
With the cast, how did you feel acting with the cast?
It was so easy to work with them. We have the same culture, the same understanding. We're familiar with each other. The deaf community is very small. We're a minority. We know each other. We had met in the past. And then meeting on the set, we already had that rapport, which was very beneficial. We had a comfort level. We worked collaboratively. And with Daniel, he and I roomed together for a couple of months at a B&B, and we had this father-son relationship. We talked about life. We talked about the boats. We talked about how to pick up girls. I mean, you name it. We had that bond. And then we get to the set, and we still feel that kinship. And it really made for a magical cast.
You've been in the industry for years acting. Do you feel like, with this movie coming out or over the time period that you've been, that they are understanding the deaf community a little bit more?
I'll let the movie speak for itself, but I do believe that it's going to increase the awareness and increase the curiosity for people to learn sign language. And I'm happy to see that influence, which is new and important. And down the road, maybe we have a president who can sign, and we don't even need an interpreter. If everybody knows sign language, imagine what that world could look like. And how to get there is by exposure and knowledge of our language and our culture, and recognizing all the talented deaf people out there, lawyers, doctors, firemen, they're all out there. And that's the great opportunity to try to affect change for the better.
And what do you feel like this movie says about fatherhood? I love the father-daughter relationship in the movie.
When I first met Amelia, she reminded me of my real life CODA daughter. And I have all that experience that I brought to the table. And I noticed how similar it was. And I missed my real daughter, and here's Amelia. And we just bonded. At the same time, CODAs have a hard life sometimes, growing up in a deaf family. They have to navigate between two worlds. Going to public school where it's all hearing kids, and then coming back to a completely different environment where everybody's signing, and switching back and forth. That's what you see. You see that opportunity to share both worlds in one film.
So I thought the movie was so sweet. I cried several times. I'd love to hear your reaction when reading the script and your thoughts towards it.
When I first read the script, I was so excited that I called my agent and I said, go for it. This screamed my name. This was something I had to do. This was something that was a gem. It's been a long time coming. There's been no film like this, written like this. And particularly with the fact that there were 3 deaf characters carrying the film, I fell in love with it. And it was a role that I just fell in love with immediately. And I wanted to work with Sian Heder because I was a fan of her work on Tallulah. So that was it.
So, you've been in the industry working as an actress for a long time. You touched upon it, but how do you feel like the industry is receiving this community now through this film?
Well, if you're talking about my culture, the deaf actors that I work with, the fact that we haven't seen them as often as we should, the fact that there aren't people working behind the scenes who happen to be deaf, it's been a long time coming that Hollywood has finally taken the moment to recognize us. Even though I've continued to work pretty consistently, there needs to be recognition of other people who happen to be deaf in the industry. And I'm seeing a lot more acceptance. Things, for example, when we're talking about accessibility, or just having interpreters on set, or making sure that shows are closed captioned, making sure that they're writing more roles, or that roles are being played authentically, or they're not even just about being deaf. And I think that steps have been made. And I think, and I hope this film will break the door wide open and provide more work for us.
What do I thought there was an interesting message about, a daughter and a mother. Can you kind of talk about how you felt the relationship in the movie, if it changed, or, how you felt that relationship was?
At the outset of the movie, you'll see a family working as best they can to maintain a living, trying to make it on a day-to-day basis, and that they interacting with their community. They're a hardworking fishing family, and they're doing the best that they can to keep things in an even keel. And then one day, out of the blue, their daughter comes in and says she wants to be a singer, just out of the blue. And it comes to them unexpectedly. They never thought of music as a career. They never even thought that their daughter, who was hearing, needs to have her own identity, that she needs to be on her own. They didn't even think about it because they were so focused on maintaining their daily lives and keeping together as a family. And I think what the film will show is that there is a journey for this family, that there is an eventual coming to a place of understanding, that it can happen, that your child can go on and dream on their own. And it happens in deaf households, just like in the movie. Realizing that there are relationships that might be codependent that we need to let go. And that there are a lot of things going on at the same time. I mean, parents need to let go, children need to let go. It's all together right there in this film. So much going on.
And they say it in the movie, and you can see it, is that their family is so, together, and they love each other so much, even though there's fighting. It's a real example of a family, right? And I really liked that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you kind of feel about that kind of family representation?
It was, I finally am glad that you're able to see something like this with a deaf family, just like you would with any other family, sibling rivalry, People who've never seen deaf people or have seen sign language will say, "Oh gosh, they're just like us. They're just like us." And that's what I like about the film.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I just felt it was so sweet. It touched me deeply. My mother, she's actually blind, and so I'm her caretaker, which is a different situation, obviously. But I felt like elements in the movie I related to, and I really enjoyed. So,
yeah, you understand you understand the need for empathy. Yeah, I'm glad you do.
yeah, thank you so much.
I can't stay with you for the rest of my life. I've never done anything without my family before. All that I need to get by.